Welcome to the Firestarters video series. My name is Steve Scheier. I've worked in cannabis since 2018. I talk and write about power, and I offer leadership guidance to cannabis leaders as well as curated advisory boards. I'm also the author of the new book, Power Up, Essential Tools for Cannabis Business Leaders, which is available on Amazon. Our guest today, I'm really excited, is Devon Julian, the CEO of the Culture Cannabis Club based in Irvine, California. Devon, great to see you.
Yeah,
And thanks for making the time to chat today. I love your background and your shirt. And I have to get myself one of those because they're really good.
absolutely.
So
I'll send you one.
I'm,
Appreciate the time.
well, thank you. I'm happy to have you on the show. So as we start out with everyone, we ask, what's your journey into cannabis been like? How did you start in cannabis? What was the important motivation to getting into cannabis for you?
Yeah, great question. And again, thank you for having me on the show. I'll make sure that you get one of these shirts.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
We'll have to exchange addresses again. So my story kind of begins in about 2006, 2007, where I kind of started. I had a couple of friends who were working in the medical field, the medical cannabis field, specifically with some patients of their families. There was one gal that had MS. It was a friend's aunt, and then that was kind of the jump into it. Was really, oh wow, there's cannabis and there's this medical use for it. And so I started doing more research and really kind of focused on advocacy from that point. It was never a career choice or a career path for me in those times. I had said it kind of jokingly as I would help in, some cultivation operations, a few gardens. I had quite the green thumb as a kid from my grandfather growing roses and vegetables and stuff. And so picking up some cultivation projects and helping some patients get some of their own going was pretty easy to me. I'm also fairly handy in construction. So that's kind of where it started. And I always kind of kept an ear to it, figure out what the legislation was, help patients when I could, kind of kept up with, what you would call today is consulting. But back then it was just helping out a friend with a grow. And so I would help them out here and there, trim, things like that, but always had a different career path in entrepreneurship. So my degree is in technical entrepreneurship and management from Arizona State University. And I always knew that I wanted to be a small business owner and an entrepreneur, and cannabis is the perfect space for that. So I was actually working in various industries, always in operations was my focus, in operations leadership. So sales management, operations director for various companies, always kind of keeping my ear to what's going on. And then it was actually by, I guess you could call it fate, luck, chance, I don't know.
All the above.
Yeah, all of the above. In the past, just to digress for a second, it was about 2009, 2010, and I was helping out some friends, and I go, man, if this ever goes legal, we're going to get big warehouses. I'm going to be in the business. We're going to do big things. Ha ha ha. Fast forward to January of 2019, Prop 64 was passed in the state of California in 16, went into effect in 18. In 2019, which is when I, started my career with Culture, it still had been gaining legs, and we're still getting legs today with only, 30-ish% today of municipalities in the state having ordinances that allow retail cannabis specifically. There's still a long runway to go. But in 2019, New Year's Eve, I had actually been told that I was going to be laid off and was transitioning from a marketing company and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I just made a phone call to a friend that I knew was in the industry in the design and build out space. And he says, hey, I need you for licensing and compliance. And so, you understand these things, you can, read and articulate. You've run a lot of businesses. Why don't you come help? So it just started as a grind of reading all the rules and regs, applying for some permits in the cities that we're adopting at that time in early 2019. And to be honest, wasn't very successful. We did have some wins. We had a lot more losses. Culture Cannabis Club as a brand and a concept really hadn't been designed at that point. We were focused on, we're going to make a retail chain. We have a few licenses now. We want to be the biggest, retail cannabis company in the state of California and beyond if possible. So we just kind of have this vision of just go big, go hard, work hard, keep grinding. And that's what we did. So that was kind of my start. And when I really started with what is today Culture Cannabis Club. And just to go back on that story that I told about, early 2009, 2010, that friend of mine that I told that story to stuck with cultivation and today runs a 16,000 square foot cultivation operation,
Right.
which is part of our vertical integration here at Culture Cannabis Club. So, good to have a friend for that long. I know that's rare, but to have a friend that we're able to make that to fruition. He's probably cursing my name because that is hard work, but it's still, it's a
Probably,
fun
yeah.
story. It's a fun story.
So tell us your role in culture. You're the CEO.
Absolutely. So, I started just grinding and getting applications and understanding from that point. I then progressed to the chief operating officer along with some of my partners, such as Julie Lee and Chris Francie. Chris is a long tenure in the industry, who was the CEO. Now he's an acting president, has since moved on to other projects. He's still very involved with the company, but not so much on the day to day. So I'm now the chief, the CEO, and I have been for since about early 2020 is about when I was named to the CEO. So responsible for all the strategy, a lot of operational input as we're expanding and growing, and responsible for that expansion and growth with the licensing and compliance team. So I wear quite a few hats, but if I had to split them, it's probably 60-40. About 60% is focused on the build out, the maturation of all of the different licenses that we have, operational input, the business culture, things like that. So I have a lot of meetings on performance and then who we are as a company and what we're doing as far as expanding what licenses we have now. And then about 30-40% of my time is spent on expansion. So that's licensing, working with new municipalities and states that are becoming green, and partnering with them on various different levels, as well as other operators in the industry. I believe that network is the net worth, and creating those types of joint ventures and partnerships in municipalities that maybe we missed or that we weren't fortunate enough to get a license in. And there's always an opportunity to bring the culture way to the city.
And what is your hope that culture will be 2 years from now? When you look out a little bit out in the horizon, what are your plans and hopes and dreams for culture 2 years from now?
2 years from now, we hope to have, I would like to have 50 operational stores, with probably about 40 of those in California and 10 operating in other states. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and we have been successful in Michigan. And so we are, moving forward with some opportunities there and continuing our expansion. There's Ohio, which has a lottery coming up, New Jersey, New York, Illinois and Missouri. Although they've gone through some rounds, there's still a lot of opportunity for Culture Cannabis Club to go there. So as far as what we have in the pipeline in 2 years, that's difficult for me to pin down because we're a work hard, be the best type of mentality as far as our growth plan and projections are. But I know operationally I'd like to have 50 stores, with hopefully 40 of those in California and 10 elsewhere, and continuing that expansion and having a big pipeline that we're moving on.
That'd be great. And so how would you differentiate your stores from other stores? What's the value add that your stores bring that other stores don't, would you say?
It's a great question. I think it's all what we have is it's all about the experience. We really focus on the customer experience, and we do that in a lot of different ways. And it starts with the culture way. The culture way is essentially a training model that talks about connecting with your customer, showing compassion for your customer, being proactive with that customer, and right fitting them into a product, getting to know them. And we're able to do that because of a unique retail concept that we have that's not very widespread in the industry. We don't, when a customer comes in, they're greeted, they're ID'd, they're checked in, things like that. But our retail stores are created around a tech-centric touchscreen model where a customer can come in and they don't have to sit there across from a glass case from a bud tender and talk about products or ask questions or kind of feel the pressure of needing to know what they're doing and what they're looking for. what we have is all of our walls lined with product packaging, which is empty. But they're able to pick up that product packaging by category and look at it and read it and see what it's about. And then they can put it on our touch screens and then learn about that product, see what the flavors are, see what the how you consume it, how much cannabinoids are in it, what the prices are, all of those kind of things. And so by getting to know your customer and having a more traditional like retail, such as a Walmart or a Macy's or a Nordstrom's, which would be a better, or an Apple store, which would be a better comparison. You can come in and you can have a conversation with somebody. We greet everybody, ask them if they know how to use their touchscreens, if they'd like to work one-on-one, if they just want to browse. We're very kind of customize your own experience as you come in. So it's really about the experience and making sure that the customer leaves happier than they were when they got there.
And using technology to help facilitate that. And I imagine that we haven't talked about it, is that when they make purchases, what their purchases are, obviously, and when they come in again, you can feed those purchases back up to them, and you can suggest other products that they might like because they bought from you before.
That's exactly right, Steve. And we're transitioning this also onto an online platform so that, the number one thing with the customer, the culture way and the experience is about education. So giving them a non-biased written way to educate themselves using the touch screens is our goal. They walk out knowing what that product was and knowing that that's what they wanted, and they leave. And then they have a profile that they can log into at any time and see their previous purchases. And just for their own sake, see, oh, I liked that. Let me kind of find something similar. And we can suggest similar items if they click on it again. Or we can have that in their profile as, you liked this, we've got a special on, this type of gummy or this product. So absolutely, it's all about customizing the experience.
It's interesting. So we're going to get a little bit in the weeds here, but I'd appreciate if you could just go with me here for a second. So how many SKUs do you have in a store? Do you have more or less? Because you have technology, do you have more or less than a store that didn't have the technology?
So we usually, it depends on the store size as well as just what's popular around there. Sometimes you find that there is a certain region that's more focused on a certain vape brand or something. So you carry a lot more of those SKUs, but less variety. But overall, I think on average, we have between 300 and 450 SKUs. So the technology, I think, allows us to have some more and a little bit more variety. But the technology allows us to sell in more variety because we can educate the customer on it rather than depending on a person to have the product knowledge, a bud tender sales associate of all of those SKUs and all of those flavors and be able to explain it in a non-biased way. So I think that we probably have a similar amount of SKUs or a bit more, but we can make sure that customer knows what they're buying, and that that sales professional maybe has only been there for a couple months and knows half the stuff in the store, but can't really articulate it. Even though we do product knowledge meetings every single day, they are very experienced. I don't want to take anything away from our cannabis consultants, but the technology aids in that. If you're not sure, a cannabis consultant will walk you over, you read it together, and they can explain what some of it means. And so it's just a better experience. But we do get to be more focused with this data and this information on what people are buying. We make sure that, store opens and takes a couple of months to build it up, but then we can go, okay, this seems to be where this region is at and what we need to focus on, so we can reduce our SKUs or focus on getting more variety of that certain brand or category.
Yeah, it's a really interesting part of the business. So you've mentioned the culture way a number of times in our conversation. So when you think about leadership and you think about power, who has it, who doesn't, how much power is available to people like on the floor in your stores, what's the leadership precepts? What are the leadership precepts that are most important for your company?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I'll be honest, nobody gets it right early on, and you kind of got to get into it to figure it out, and we're still evolving. I don't want to sit here and tell you that we've gotten it perfectly, and it definitely always depends on who you ask. But we've tried to develop this culture way And we do that starting at the top, and then hopefully that precipitates down to the store level and even to the customers. And we focus on a couple of core values. First one is, we are a competitive company and we're in a competitive environment. So it's be the best and work hard. That's the number one thing that everybody's got to do. You gotta strive to be the best in what you do, no matter what position you hold. You got to give that customer the best experience. We need them to come back in order to expand our brand and to make sure that they feel that culture experience and they're walking out happier than you can. And that takes hard work, and that takes striving to be better than you were yesterday, an hour ago, a month ago, those types of things. We focus on connecting and compassion as some of our core values. So having compassion for your fellow coworker, your subordinates, your leadership, all of those things, and making sure that you're taking a frame of empathy before you act on emotion. Let me have compassion for this person. What's their situation? Maybe why did they think that this was the right thing to do? And that leads into connecting as well. Connect with that person, get to know them. There's a phrase I just said the other day to the team, and I said, nobody cares how much you know unless they know how much you care. And that was told to me by a mentor of mine in 2008 or 2009, when I was working in a retail call center selling communications products for consumers. And it changed who I was. Just that statement and that phrase was care, show people you care, ask questions, that kind of thing. Open-mindedness is a big one, is just staying open. This is an ever evolving thing. Like I just said, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And this industry is definitely not perfect and is evolving in a big way too. So being open to that change, having an open mind to difference of opinions, things like that. And then there's growth. We always want to support growth. We're always bringing in trainings and offering different opportunities to go and, do a tour at a cultivation, things like that. Ask questions, to do a shadow with a member of leadership to see what their day is like, just growth in general. And then finally is empowerment, set the expectations, talk through any of the challenges that are going to be there, make sure the resources are there for that person to succeed, and then just let them do it, come back and give feedback, but try not to micromanage every single second of every single day or checklist the whole company to death. Although I am doing that a bit with some of this planning and pipeline stuff. The team would, if they listen to this, probably goes, you just gave me a checklist. We're always evolving, but in general, it's the empowerment, and the checklist is just high level. Did you accomplish a basic task? It probably took you days to get there, right, that kind of thing, but empower you to learn and grow on your own and to do the job right. And then if you don't, let's have a conversation with you about it. Let's all have some criticism, and then let's give another chance to do it right again and to learn. So yeah, those are some of the core values that we operate on.
That was great. I applaud you, because not that many companies really have those at their fingertips, and I'm glad that you're able to do that. And who knows, there might even be another T-shirt with those core values on it in the future. Who knows?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, one of my great passions in life, I've been doing this for about 12 years, is driving power down in organizations. One of the things that is most important to people like in your position is the ability to focus, the ability to really focus on the issues that are going to drive the business. And too many times in organizations, people want to keep escalating problems to people like you when they really should be dealing with them on their own. So do you have a program, or do you have an attitude or a focus on empowering? You talked about it, but how do you get people to really own their power? Because that's what I find is really fascinating and really interesting. And it's a challenge. I mean, because some people don't want to own their power. Some people are afraid of owning their power. Some people have had bad experiences, but it's still really, really important to be able to do. So are there any tips that you can pass along where how you encourage people to own their power and to be more accountable?
That's a good question. To own their power and be more accountable. It's actually something that as a company we're doing right now actively, is helping with that empowerment, because where we started out was just grinders. It's just a lot of people working really hard towards a common goal of growing the business. And then we had to open them. Okay, well, let's start grabbing, really smart people that have some skills and getting these things built out, getting them open, getting the operations going, getting compliance. Okay, we're just working so hard. And we still are today. The pace has done nothing but pick up, but the company has grown significantly. It's at the holiday party recently, I actually wrote down the numbers, and it was like, okay, the first one, 2019, we had like 12 people. And then last year at the holiday party, and I had to go through the picture and count. That's how I figured it out. But 2020 was like, it's in the 40s, and now today we're well over 220 employees. And by the end of the year, we're going to be 750, 800. So we're kind of building the plane. It's been taking off. But the points of advice, to get back to your question, are certainly to have a system. We implemented a system of analyzing people's jobs, not with a long job description or getting too lengthy with it and getting too corporate with it. It's, what are the 6 bullet points that you do? If you hit these bullet points, then you are succeeding. Making that very clear to you and everybody on a chart, that it's not, your strategic advice and analysis of this and that. It's 5. What can you get to the bigger point of strategic analysis and things like that? And putting that into a bullet point and holding yourself to only a few is difficult, but you don't try and put them into a box. Give them the freedom to breathe and to own that. Right. So the goal was, a lot of meetings. What do you do? What do you want to do? What are your skills? Because it was just, you're close, you can do this, you did a job for a while and you helped the company grow fast. Now let's get you specialized. Go deeper, not wider. I don't need you to be a jack of all trades and do everything. You're really good at this thing. You want to do this thing. You understand this thing. You bleed that thing. You're passionate about it. I'm going to help support you any way I can to go deeper into that thing and be a specialist in this company at that thing. So that's what I've tried to do is, initially it was good people that have a lot of heart and are willing to sacrifice a lot of time to get where we're at. And now we're at a point where, okay, it's more specialized. It's more specialty. I don't need you doing licensing and compliance and operations and hiring. I need you to do what you're best at. And so we're fortunate to be at that place right now in the growth of our company. And that's the biggest thing, is don't put 2 people in a box. Give people the power to breathe and just make sure they're accomplishing the goals that you have set for them.
Wonderful. Well, Devon, we're almost done, and I really want to thank you again for coming on the show. People always find these shows to be really informative. Let me just close by 2 things. Number 1, do you have 2 points of wisdom that you can share about how people can be successful in the industry? And then how can people reach you if they want to reach out?
So I think for people that want to be successful in this industry, it's definitely, I have 2 points on that. Definitely be flexible, be nimble, understand that there's a lot of change going on. And this is a brand new industry that's got such a big runway to really become a real industry. We're talking about ending prohibition basically worldwide, more locally in the US, and then even more locally still in California, where it's not completely gone. There's still issues with that, but be flexible, work hard and be part of those conversations in that, which I'm trying to do a better job at with the advocacy, because if you want to make change, then you got to be there. And that leads me into network. Your network is your net worth. And the more people you never know what kind of opportunities they're going to bring. I'm always surprised by the conversations that I have, and then the phone calls that I get after those conversations. You said this, what if this? And it turns into a whole project that could be very profitable or couldn't. It could be nothing. But the more people that in the industry and around the industry too, whether that's municipal government, consultants, politicians, staff, anybody, all of those people that have an influence on policy as well as the industry, it's good to know them. So definitely networking and be nimble. For people to get a hold of me, the best way is, jump on our website. There's a lot of different avenues if there's a specific goal with the reach out. Otherwise, it's just Devon, which is Devon, kind of pronounced Devon. at culturecannabisclub.com, and feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to respond.
Wonderful. Well, Devon, thank you very much for coming on Firestarters, the Firestarters video series, and we really, really appreciate it. My name is Steve Scheier, author of Power Up, and it was really great to see you today, and thank you very much for listening.
Appreciate the time, Steve.